speak for Westminster.
Paul Masterson.
Deputy Speaker, I'm pleased to speak in support of this bill, and given the demography of East Renfrewshire, it is one of real significance to my constituents. I think I should refer members to my register of interest, as prior to coming into this place I spent 9 years as a specialist pensions advisory solicitor and was a member of various fund organisations like the Association of Pensions Lawyers, which I can assure you is as exciting as it sounds. The first part of this bill, which creates a single financial guidance body to replace 3 existing services, is a much-needed move to make public financial guidance more accessible and more integrated. The services currently offered by the Money Advice Service, the Pensions Advisory Service and PensionWise are somewhat disjointed, and there is a lack of communication and coordination between the 3 services, which is really why only 3% of PensionWise users say they first heard about its service from the Money Advice Service, for example. And as public financial guidance services, those figures should be much, much higher. And that is why it's important that the 3 services are replaced with one body. So instead of having to contact 2 or more different services for different aspects of financial guidance, people will be able to access one integrated and holistic service. Because it is absolutely critical that people across the UK are able to access independent, impartial and high-quality financial guidance. Now, it should go without saying that the ultimate measure of a guidance service is whether or not the guidance it provides is actually useful. And I would like to see, therefore, the single body be subject to rigorous evaluations based on consumer outcomes, not just outputs, in order to ensure it is fulfilling its role. Much of the anticipated success of the new SFGB assumes that the new body publicises itself effectively, according to which around 2/3 of people are aware of each of the 3 existing bodies. It is crucial that the single financial guidance body quickly achieves and then surpasses those levels of awareness so that as many people as possible can access its services. Linking in with the pensions dashboard to prompt users would be a very simple step. Freedom and choice has been mentioned earlier in the debate, has changed the pensions landscape. But whilst PensionsWise is sensible government policy, it is predicated on individuals becoming engaged investors, and so it didn't mitigate the risks for most people. And research by the Pensions and Lifetime Savings Association found that only 22% of individuals use the PensionsWise website. That's nowhere near good enough if we are serious about ensuring people are going to be providing sustainable retirement for themselves. And in its comprehensive Financial Lives survey, the FCA identified further detail on the shockingly low levels of guidance usage among key age groups, with only 7% of all 55 to 64-year-olds using the service in the last 12 months. So perhaps it's not surprising that the PLSA found that of the 3 million individuals with defined contribution pots not yet in payment between the ages of 55 and 70, 300,000 had taken no action whatsoever. Of those that had, 15% had used the new freedom to take more than their 25% tax-free cash lump sum, and when that cash was taken, 20% spent it all in what is sometimes colloquially known as the Lamborghini option. Freedom and choice is great. I like it, but it brings with it inherent risk of life-destroying choices, and the role of the SFGB has to be providing the guidance to try and stop people making those mistakes. Individuals face really complex risks when selecting how to use their pension savings. The language, concepts, risks are all unfamiliar to most people. How to use your retirement funds is one of the most important decisions you will make in your life, and impartial, independent support to make an informed decision is absolutely vital. So it's clear to me, at least, that the new SFGB is integral to the success of freedom and choice, because it has to be the anchor for accessing high-quality guidance so people can evaluate their options and make the best use of what they have saved. Given everything I've seen and experienced before coming into this place, I do remain hugely attracted to the principle of default guidance, mirroring the approach taken to auto-enrolment with statutory opt-out provisions. And I do think Clause 5.2 could be strengthened, as was recommended by the Work and Pensions Select Committee. And I know there's been some positive noises on that for the Minister, but I do think that if you're looking for something as close to a silver bullet as possible, default guidance is probably it. I would also question precisely how the single body is going to work alongside the new pensions dashboard. The dashboard is long overdue, a tool which brings together an individual's pension entitlement, state, workplace and personal, and is going to be really, really widely used. But I do have a slight worry that providers will, and indeed are, going to be setting up their own branded variations, which will... Oh, sorry.
I'm most grateful to him. I'll help him on a couple of points very briefly in the contemplation of his outstanding speech that the dashboard is being proceeded with. that I will be making a statement to the House before the end of March, giving an update to the House on the process by which this is taking place, and I will address some of the other remarks in his speech later stage.
Thank you. I will move on then on that basis. So I'll move on then to clause 4 and pensions cold calling. Losses from pension scams rose to 8 million in March last year, and over 40 million has been lost to pensions liberation, which was something I dealt with a lot in practice, where individuals were being tempted to transfer out of generous final salary schemes to access their pension pot prior to age 55, with the 55% tax charge that came with it. Though big steps have been taken, scammers are clever and their approaches are becoming more sophisticated. Citizens Advice believe around 2.4 million 55 to 64-year-olds received unsolicited contact about their pension in the year after pension freedom and choice was introduced. So a cold call ban will narrow the scope for scammers, but if we had a default guidance requirement, there's more chance of the individual being alerted to the risk they were facing before they took an option to transfer. In relation to clauses 7 and 8, other members have been through that in more detail. Now, like all things, the debt arrangement scheme we have in Scotland is not perfect, but it is a very good place to start, as I think the government has recognised in bringing forward the provisions it did at third reading in the other place. I think that a statutory debt management plan is a good thing, not least because it should avoid insolvency. Under clause 11, arrangements are introduced for the funding of debt advice in Scotland, Wales and Northern Ireland. The delivery of debt advice will be devolved, but raising a levy to fund the provision of that advice is reserved. And I do have some concerns here. Whilst I can completely understand the rationale for devolving debt advice, given the other advice and guidance services commissioned from Edinburgh, Cardiff and Belfast, I'm not precisely clear how this is going to work in practice, because the functions of the new single body effectively fall into two categories. The debt advice function, where it will provide members of the public in England only with information and advice on debt, and the strategic debt function. That strategic function is UK-wide, so we'll have a situation where the single body's functions in relation to financial capability, money guidance and the strategic debt function are UK-wide, but the debt advice function is not. So that debt advice function really does have to dovetail with the UK-wide elements of the SFGB, irrespective of its delivery from the devolved administrations, if this is actually going to work. And I'm not entirely clear how we're going to ensure how that happens. Clauses 10 and 11 require the SFGB to set and enforce standards across the debt advice partners it commissions, because debt services are predominantly provided by service providers, many of whom operate cross-border. But with the procurement and provision of debt advice services devolved, that role doesn't sit with the SFGB in Scotland, Wales or Northern Ireland, but with the devolved administrations. And as was pointed out by many bodies in the consultations, this could raise issues. Of course, the devolved administrations may want to tailor services to meet particular requirements, but there really is a strong case for ensuring standards are aligned both for providers who operate cross-border and indeed for UK consumers. And I would ask the Minister if they could outline how they intend to work with the devolved administrations to ensure commissioning of debt advice services is joined up so far as possible to ensure we get that dovetailing I mentioned earlier. Madam Deputy Speaker, I'm conscious of time, so I'm not going to go into Part 2 in much detail, other than to say that I am pleased that the Scottish Government has changed its position from originally not wanting Part 2 to extend to Scotland to now agreeing that Part 2 should agree to Scotland. I think that, combined with some of the measures going through the Scottish Parliament at the minute, particularly around no-win, no-fee solicitors, will make a big difference to some of the issues around claims management companies north of the border. This bill has two pillars, both of which are much needed. And while they're not the end of the story, the provisions in this bill allowing for a single integrated financial guidance service are important advances. I'm absolutely delighted to support this bill, and we'd really like to thank the Minister and his team for bringing it forward. This is a really difficult area, and he has grasped the nettle, or as we're in Burns season, grasped the thistle, and brought into this House legislation with real intent and purpose that will, along with the Government's other initiatives on pension saving, make huge positive changes to how people monitor and manage their finances.